Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page. Tonight's movie is Jess Franco's El Sexo Está Loco, known as The Sex is Crazy. The Sex is Crazy. This is the DVD put out by the Sinful Mermaid Distribution Company, 2009, starring Lena Remey and Robert Foster. Now, the distribution company for this DVD is, in fact, the Sinful Mermaid. I've never heard of them before. It's quite a unique DVD release here. This is the back of it. Okay, with the nudity kind of blotted out with little circles. All it has in here is a scene selection or a scene selection slideshow, and you can play English subtitles. If not, I believe the whole film is in Spanish. It's played, region free. You can pick this up on Amazon very easily. This is an official release from the Sinful Mermaid, and this is done in Spain supposedly, and it was released in 1981. 1981. So this was before Macumba Sexual, but this was definitely a time, I believe, when Franco went back to Spain. And things were not as conservative as they once were when he originally left Spain. This was directed by Jess Franco, written by Jess Franco, and original music was done by Jess Franco, and also the amazing Jess Franco regular who does music for a lot of his films, Mr. Daniel White. The Sex is Crazy, El Sexo Está Loco. There it is there. You see Lena Remey on the cover, as well as some various bizarre things. And that is the side of the movie right there. There we go. Yes. All right. The Sinful Mermaid puts this out. This is quite possibly one of the most surreal and bizarre films I've seen in my life. I said the film Macumba Sexual by Jess Franco, starring Lena Remey, was the definition of surreal. Well, this film really takes surreal to a whole nother level. In some ways, it's almost like Jess Franco meets David Lynch in some way. In some ways, it reminded me in pieces of maybe the bizarreness and surreal quality of Mulholland Drive by David Lynch. This film is chaos and crazy and insanity and confusion. This is a film that where people are playing characters, and then their characters seemingly switch throughout the film as stories switch throughout the film. This is a film where it's going in on itself, meaning all of a sudden you see Jess Franco filming in a mirror behind in the scene, and you're thinking, my gosh, was that a mistake? I mean, it seems so blatant. How could it be a mistake? How could they have left that in the film? And then all of a sudden, Jess Franco says, cut, and you see him saying cut, and you see the cinematographer, and then they do the scene again, and then they do the scene again. Then there are scenes where you see Jess Franco's camera, and he zooms in on his own camera through a mirror, and then he changes focus, and you see the focus changing. This film goes in on itself. What do they call it? The third wall, the fourth wall? This film goes in on itself. In on itself and in on itself. A film within a film within a film, as a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. This is the way this movie is made. The edits go from all different elements in this film. The edits are crazy. This movie could be called The Edits Are Crazy. The story is crazy. I mean, it has these elements where you will see characters doing something, and then Franco will go to another scene, and then you'll go back to those characters, and they're in different positions. They've gone into different areas. All of a sudden, they've breached a porch of a high building, and now he goes to another scene. Then you go back to them, and all of a sudden they're standing on rocks on the ground. the music of this film spans so many different elements, horrific elements and atmospheric, horrific, surreal, experimental elements. We almost have barbershop music at times. We have jazz. Then we almost have elements of like jazz meets sci-fi, or jazz meets Wendy Carlos, who did the scores for Clockwork Orange and The Shining. Um, we have the music really taking all these different forms as the movie takes all these different forms. Jess Franco's filming style in this movie goes from subtle for the majority of the film to some zooms and utilizing mirrors, especially spectacularly in the first couple minutes of the film. And then all of a sudden, getting more chaotic, more crazy, out of focus, things that seem like they could be haphazard and chaotic becoming like genius. Especially to people who like the surreal, especially to people who are not looking for a linear storyline, quote unquote, but they're looking for a sense of completion in the surreal, in the bizarre, in things that seemingly logically don't make sense, but beyond the logical, into something that makes sense illogically. He has these really ingenious, surreal shots of things with utilizing reflections and glass panes and and a sense of completion from the beginning of the film to the end of the film. Even though you could say this is not making sense, all of a sudden there's something from the beginning of the film to the end of the film. I gotta tell you, folks, there are sections of this film where all of a sudden characters are speaking an unknown language and there are no subtitles because they're not supposed to have subtitles. There, wow, there are sections of the film where it's like, oh, it's a film, and they yell cut, and then you're wondering, well, what is a film? What? And then there are sections where there's narration over the film telling you it's a film, and showing you an actress in some comedic kind of way, or when an actor in this film looks into the camera. And then there are elements when you're not sure what story is part of the film or what story is the story within the film, if that makes and there are sections where people are going into a fun house at a carnival, and then all of a sudden it's an apartment, or it's a location within a fun house. There are mixed storylines, confused storylines, seemingly just chaos, but the flow of the film is with Lena Romay's character. She's wearing the same outfit most of the time throughout this film. And she's being credited in this movie, I believe, as Candy Foster in the credits. And there is this element of aliens and vaginas and penises and sex and birth in a matter of seconds. And there's an element of two men and two women who all four of them get married. And there's an element of these people with masks and punishment for being lesbian, and there's these tribal gods and resurrecting Lucifer, and the devil with a penis who's a naked man, and masked audience members with these bizarre, freaky, scary looking plain dollar store masks. And there's an ingenious shot in this film regarding a devil mask, and when it gets pulled off, I don't know what scared the crap out of me. And there's betrayal and greed and microfilm chips and secret plans and a married couple who are maybe spies or backstabbing and screams and tying people up but too tight, or sleeping pills that don't work even though they thought they would work. Folks, This is the definition of surreal. Now, I got to tell you that this film is sexually explicit. At first, you think it's not so much. It's implied 69ing or implied stuff. And then all of a sudden, the zooms get wild into the vagina with liquid dripping down the breast to the chest. And there's lesbianism and there's orgies and things like that. But they're mostly implied, right? And then all of a sudden, you see really close up fingers rubbing on a vagina or lesbian oral going on. I mean, not, incredibly explicit, but it's definitely happening, although the camera's not incredibly there and there's no invasive things happening, if you catch my drift. But the film is very sexual, and the film really takes you from horror to the weird, to sci-fi sexual, to something very erotic. There's even a seeming spacecraft, a large spacecraft with weird structures, and Franco zooming in on weird diagrams that might be part of artwork or part of a painting, but you don't know, you only see a piece of it, and then he's cutting this in with a devil and a skeleton that needs to be kissed, and a severed hand of some tribal god, and Uncle Lucifer with a penis, and people with silver skin. My gosh, this film is freaking crazy. My gosh, if you like crazy, surreal, edgy, bizarre films, my gosh. Now, and the film seems to be going in one direction, and then all of a sudden it completely switches and goes in another direction, then another direction, another direction, then it seems to have a sense of surreal completion, though. Does it? Does it? Ladies and gentlemen, this is El Sexo Está Loco. The Sex is Crazy, Jess Franco's film from 1981. You can pick this up on Amazon easily, or eBay, but mostly Amazon, through the Sinful Mermaid, who released it in 2009. It seems to still be in print, folks, and there are plenty of used sellers selling it as well. This is The Sex is Crazy. If you like what you've heard, you definitely want to get this. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bazaar YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Check out all my other reviews, all my other Jess Franco reviews as well as many other types of films. And if you'd like to see my personal films, which are quite like this film I just talked about in many ways, please check out my own films at youtube.com/poopydiarrhea. Thank you so much. The Sex is Crazy. Good night.